Oh, no need to leave. I thought we was all friends. Miss Betty. Good morning, everybody. I'm going to pray first. My mom don't even let me have a chance to make a mistake. And I would never burn my hand on a hot oven. I thank you, Father, for this day. Thank you for the blessing to come into your house. I thank you for your word. I thank you that we have a direction that we can go. And I just praise you so much you gave us a way out. And that your love is stronger if we just love you. And I thank and praise you in your great name. Amen. Okay. We are going to start in Isaiah. And if I seem a little bit off, I brought the wrong Bible today. It's still a good Bible, but it's not the one with all my cheat notes in it. But before we start in Isaiah 1, I want to lay a little bit of groundwork. And so let's go to Deuteronomy, because everybody loves Deuteronomy. and my pages aren't marked in this Bible. And I want to encourage everybody as we start in Isaiah. I don't want anybody to get depressed about how bad things look. Because if you remember, the first half is about doing wrong in judgment. But then the second half, we find there is a way out. So we're going to spend a lot of time in the Old Testament, which sometimes it seems like we're always in trouble, but you'll find that we're usually in trouble because of us. And you usually find that once we change our heart, God's always quick to forgive. All right, so I'll just put that out there so, nobody get frustrated like, hey, there's no hope, because there is, and we know what our hope lies in. And I need to thank Byron. We were talking about one of the kings that I was going to talk about today, and he was like, oh, ain't that the one that prayed for extra years? And I'm like, man, I sure didn't read that. So as I was going back over to read, I find that, oh, wait, I was talking about a complete different king. So we got that straightened out. So thank you, Byron, for being my concordance. In Deuteronomy 28, if you start about 15, you'll see that there's, about 14, 15. I'm lying to you, sorry. If you start in 1, you have about 14 chapters about being blessed if you obey God. Then you get here to about 15, and it's the curses that will come for disobeying God. And if you finish out the chapter, there's about 68 chapters. So by my calculations, that would be 54 verses of curses for not obeying. If you're looking at pages, there's like a quarter of a page of good, and full page and almost 2 full pages of bad things that could happen. So this morning I'm thinking, that don't seem right. If we obey God, Byron, we just get this little bit. But if we disobey God, we get all of this. You want to know why? The blessings of God are a lot better than any curse, any bad thing, if we just obey. So it's not even comparison. We're alive now, and things seem hard. And as we're going through it, we're like, oh man, I just turned 53 years old. My arm hurts. Sometimes I can't raise my arm up. I kept telling everybody it's got to be raining because I can't, my elbow's hurting. And they're like, it ain't going to rain this week. Well, last night we get a storm. But my life compared to eternity, it's no comparison. Okay? Are you with me? But it's going to be I wasn't going to read all this, but I am, because this is going to be some groundwork. Now, this is Deuteronomy. This is the law. This is what every Jewish person knew from the time they were little to the time they were old. These were the things that they must do. And that's going to come in handy here in a minute. But it shall come to pass, if thou wilt not hearken, this is King James. Hearken unto the voice of the Lord thy God, to observe, to do all his commandments and his statutes, which I command thee this day, that all these curses shall come upon thee and overtake thee. Then it goes on, curse thou in the city, in the country, thy basket. Go down to verse 20. The Lord shall send upon thee cursing, vexation, rebuke, and all thou settest thy hand unto for to do, until thou be destroyed, and until thou perish quickly, because of the wickedness of thy doings, whereby thou hast forsaken me. The Lord shall make the pestilence cleave unto thee, until he have consumed thee from of the land whither thou goest to possess it. The Lord shall smite thee with a consumption, with a fever, with an inflammation, and with an extreme burning, and with the sword, and with blasting, and with mildew, and they shall pursue thee until thou perish. And thy heaven that is over thy head shall be brass, and the earth that is under thee shall be iron. The Lord shall make the rain of thy land powder and dust. From heaven shall it come down upon thee until thou be destroyed. Then in 25, the Lord shall cause thee to be smitten before thine enemies, and thou shalt go out one way against them, and flee 7 ways before them, and shalt be removed into all the kingdoms of the earth. And thy carcass shall be meat unto all fowls of the air, and unto the beasts of the earth, and no man shall fray them away. The Lord will smite thee with the botch of Egypt, and with the emerods, and with the scab, and with the itch, whereof thou canst not be healed. The Lord shall smite thee with madness, and blindness, and astonishment of the heart. And thou shalt grope at noonday, as the blind gropeth in the darkness, and thou shalt not prosper in thy ways. I'm going to skip down to 34. Are y'all kind of getting the idea of what's going to happen if you disobey God? I mean, I love this. I mean, it's kind of graphic, but sometimes you need that graphic in your life to fully understand who God is. In 34, so that thou shalt be mad for the sight of thy own eyes, which thou shalt see. This was one of my key verses. There's going to be so much stuff happening that if you pay attention to it, to what's happening around you, what's going on in your world, you're going to go crazy. And my warning is, don't be afraid what's around you. And we're going to see that here in a minute. So I know this is a long ways to go. The Lord shall smite thee in the knees and in the legs with a sore botch that cannot be healed from the sole of thy feet unto the top of thy head. And then in I'm not going to read any more. Are y'all getting the idea? There is a part in here where it goes on about you're going to eat your own kids because you're not going to have any food. Then it's going to get to the point where I'm not even going to share my kids with Byron. I mean, to me, this is cool. Not in the funny way, but when we start to see the kings of Israel turn their back on God, don't pretend they didn't know what was going to happen. It's written. Okay, are we good now? Do y'all know the story of Sodom and Gomorrah? I'm not going to read it. It is in Genesis 18:22 to about 19:24. God's going to destroy Sodom and Gomorrah. But, oh my gosh, Abraham tries to talk. Sorry, I usually look at April. Abraham tries to talk him out of it. If you can find 40, 45 people, will you not destroy it? Sure, if I can find that many. Well, then he starts thinking in his head, not God. I mean, God knows. Hey, how about 40? Then he's like, well, okay, maybe not 40. Hey, just for a handful, will you not destroy it? Well, Sodom and Gomorrah got destroyed. There was nobody there that was righteous in God's eye. That's going to be important. So, Isaiah 1. The vision of Isaiah, the son of Amoz, which he saw concerning Judah and Jerusalem in the days of Uzziah, Jotham, Ahaz, and Hezekiah, kings of Judah. If you're wanting to keep up, this would be about 2 Chronicles 26 and 2 Kings 15. That's when Uzziah takes over. Hear, O heavens, and give ear, O earth, for the Lord hath spoken. I have nourished and brought up children, and they have rebelled against me. The ox knoweth his owner, the ass his master's crib, but Israel doth not know, my people doth not consider. Now, when they're talking Israel, they're talking, remember, Israel's to the north, Judah's to the south. They're actually talking about Judah. Israel has already turned their back on God. So this is the second part of Israel. Ah, sinful nation, a people laden with iniquity, a seed of evildoers, children that are corrupters. They have forsaken the Lord. They have provoked the Holy One of Israel into anger. They are gone away backward. In Matthew 3:7, Jesus calls these people a brood of vipers. From the sole of the foot even unto the head there is no soundness in it, but wounds, bruises, and putrefying sores. They have not been closed, neither bound up, nor mollified with ointment. It seems like we've read this before. You know, on and on through the history of the Bible, the people continue to do what they ought not do. Paul even said, why do I do this, which I know I ought not, because that's what I'm always doing. We have to understand that God cannot be around sin. We have to be as righteous as we can. In Psalms 38, David is praying to God, O Lord, rebuke me not in thy wrath, nor chasten me in thy hot displeasure. For thine arrows stick fast in me, and thy hand presseth me sore. There is no soundness in my flesh because of thine anger. neither is there any rest in my bones because of my sin. For mine iniquities are gone over mine head, as a heavy burden they are too heavy for me. My wounds stink and are corrupt because of my foolishness. I am troubled. I am bowed down greatly. I go mourning all the day long. David wasn't asking not to be punished. He was praying to God, don't punish me in your anger, in your wrath. I know I've done wrong. He knew there was punishment coming. Now, this is David, an individual punishment. When you start to read about the kings, I was always under the assumption that when the kings turned bad, their country turned bad. But as you read about Uzziah, when he takes over, he did good. He did good for God. He did everything he was supposed to do until he goes and burns incense in front of the ark, which you think, well, why is that a big deal? Well, God has laid out what was holy, what was righteous. There's priests that were to do that. The priests would be clean when they went in there to do that. So he was struck with leprosy until the day he died. And this is someone in the Bible that says he did what was right for God. Then you read about a couple of other kings after him, and like I said, I always thought when the kings did bad, it talks about the king was upright for God, but the people did bad. So, by my calculations, it's got nothing to do with our leaderships. Yes, leadership is important, but if we don't like who we have, we're not to worry about it. You can go crazy down at the donut shop every morning worrying about the state of politics in the United States of America. We have two jobs. Love the Lord our God with all of our heart and love our neighbor, no matter which side of the fence they're on. In Jeremiah, wait, where was I at on that? In Isaiah? Anybody remember? Okay. In Jeremiah 5:3, and I apologize again, my pages ain't marked. Oh, wait, it is marked. 5:3, it says, O Lord, are not thine eyes upon the truth? Thou hast stricken them, but they have not grieved. Thou hast consumed them, but they have refused to receive correction. They have made their faces harder than a rock. They have refused to return. Now remember, Isaiah is telling Judah, this is going to happen to you if you don't turn back. Okay, everybody still with me? In Jeremiah 8:7, okay, I'm sorry, 5:1, run ye to and fro through the streets of Jerusalem, this is in Jeremiah, and see now and know, and seek in the broad places thereof, if ye can find a man, if there be any that executed judgment, that seeketh the truth, and I will pardon it. This is about 100 years after Isaiah. Isaiah was dealing with the Assyrians. They've had plenty of different countries come in to try to wipe them out. But here they're talking about, hey, this is time. The Babylonians are coming. In 8:7, yea, the stork in the heaven knoweth her appointed times, and the turtle and the crane and the swallow observe the time of their coming. But my people know not the judgment of the Lord. And I wonder, how did they not know? It's written in Deuteronomy. They were so keen on knowing the law that they weren't seeing what was taking place. Back to Isaiah. Your country is desolate, your cities are burned with fire, your land, strangers devour it in your presence, and it is desolate, as overthrown by strangers. The daughter of Zion is left as a cottage in a vineyard, as a lodge in a garden of cucumbers, as a besieged city. Except the Lord of hosts had left unto us a very small remnant, we should have been as Sodom, and we should have been like Gomorrah. I'm going to stop there. We knew that there's going to be a remnant left. There are people that still believed and still followed God. The country, the way Isaiah is saying, hey, we're going to lose this country. It's a prophecy, and some of his were going to happen fast. Some were going to take a little while. This particular one is going to happen in about 100 years. I believe Assyria is going to come and attack, which we'll get into all that here later. But what is it that makes us not follow God? And we're going to go to Romans 9:29. And as I was thinking this morning, because all through, even David, a man after God's own heart, he messed up so many times. Hezekiah is one of the greatest kings Israel had ever known. And once again, read through the kings as we read through Isaiah. But he had a problem. Towards the end, all this good's happening to him. I want to say it was Babylon, kings, rulers, came down to visit him just to take a look around. And he takes them in, shows them everything, shows them the treasury, shows them all of his armies, shows them everything that he accomplished. Then he gets told, well, because of this, you're going to lose your country. There's a pride thing. And understand, I'm not getting political, I promise. But I can remember one debate, someone asked before he was President Trump, what exactly would you do if you were in this situation? And he said, I'm not going to tell you on TV so people know what I'm going, so that the country knows. So as I was reading that, I'm like, there's constant war going on. Why would you show a future enemy anything, everything, all of your secrets? It's no wonder God said, God, boy, and smite them down. But there's this pride thing that we have in us that I don't think we can help it. The history of Israel, and we talk about it all the time. Things will go good. Things will go good. Things are going good. Then all of a sudden, what's Pastor say? There's an eye problem. You start looking around, you see how good you're doing, and then you forget why you're doing good. You forget who is your why. When I never thought about it, but when I worked with Steve Barnes, he'd say, Jim, I love driving around town, looking at a transformer bank, looking up there and telling my kids, hey, I put that in. Look at that pole's straight. Then I got to thinking, I do that. I go through with the boys, hey, this was usually after I come home, sat them down, hollered at them because I was in a mud hole or in a manhole all day long. And I'm like, you don't need to do this. You need to keep grades up. You need to work hard so that you don't have to be in 100-degree weather coming up next week, putting up with people you work with, trying to find a valve you don't even know is there. And I'm assuming by then the ground's going to be rock hard, like iron. But I would go around, hey, we just had a killer leak right there. See that dirt work? Now don't go to Pokers and look at the dirt work. But there will come a time that it's going to look good. And I have known occasions Pokers went and actually made it look good. But I have a couple of guys that like to do dirt work. But what I'm saying is, that's not me doing that. I do what I can do. God's going to do the rest. That's our job, is to do what we can do. Understand that it's God. It's the Spirit living in us that's giving us wisdom to do things. Like if someone doesn't do something, if I'm not teaching correctly to a new guy, that he can say, hey, I don't understand, and I don't get offended. Are y'all with me? It's a pride. I mean, how do we turn our back on the reason we're blessed beyond any measure? No matter what we do, we're blessed. Real fast, 9 and 29, Romans 9:29. Now, I'm not going above or below because there's different things Isaiah said, but as Paul's talking to the Romans, and as Isaiah said before, except the Lord of Sabaoth had left us a seed, we had been as Sodom and made like unto Gomorrah. What shall we say then? That the Gentiles which followed not after righteousness have attained to righteousness, even the righteousness which is of faith. But Israel, which followed after the law of righteousness, has not attained. What shall we say then? What makes us holy? Understand, God is the Holy One of Israel. None other like him. Paul taught everywhere he went, first to the Jews, then to the Gentiles. A few of them believed. There's going to come a time when not many of God's children are going to be left. But there'll be a few who will understand the true way of Jesus Christ. Which we, because we haven't spent our whole lives following this law that doesn't get you anything other than you thinking, look how good I am. I keep every one of the laws. It's, I believe in Jesus Christ. I let Jesus come into my life. I let Jesus change me from who I was before to who I am now. Who I am now is going to be completely different to who I'm going to be later, if I keep my focus on God. If I don't keep my focus on God, who I am now is going to be completely different who I am later. Good thing we're short, because I was going to bring up like a road map and not following it. But understand, we have a way. We were given a way. Don't get caught up with what's going on around you. When you step out of the boat, don't look at the waves. It'll make you crazy. There's a lot of crazy things. Don't look at the gas prices. Prices. Yeah, that's what you pay into the lottery. Things are going to get better. And if they don't, things are still going to get better. We have someone who's there for us, that's going to make a way. And even if the Canadians come down, take over the United States of America, there's still going to be us that's going to follow Jesus Christ. I guess Canadians follow Jesus too. I'm not saying that. So Canadians, I'm sorry. But understand, Jesus is the way. That's who we follow. Was everybody okay with that? This was a little bit different lessons I like to give. I like to just show God's power at work. But understand, God's power is at work. If He allows things to happen, there's a reason. And I'm not saying that we can't pray, bow down, our land will be healed. As a group, we can do that. And if it's not happening, I'm going to say it's going to start right here with this group of people. Or the group of people up at 15th and Bluebell. We ought to know what's going on. But we also need to understand that that's not what's important. Our testimony, our witnesses, show people that we're not crazy. We might act a little crazy. Peculiar. Anyway, I love you guys. Praise God today. Worthy, worthy, worthy.